I didn't notice it all at once, and that's probably the reason it got this far. Because if something like this starts big, loud, obvious, you react, you leave, you do something about it. But when it begins with small things, things you can explain, things you can ignore, you let it stay. And that's exactly what I did. It started with my phone. One morning, I woke up later than usual, nothing strange about that. I had been sleeping badly for a few days, so I didn't question it. I just grabbed my phone like I always do and started scrolling. And that's when I saw it, a photo in my gallery that I didn't remember taking. It was my kitchen. Nothing special, just the counter, the sink, the light on. But the angle felt wrong, like it was taken from a position I never stand in, slightly higher, slightly tilted, like someone else held the phone. I stared at it longer than I should have, trying to remember, trying to place the moment. Because sometimes you forget small things, right? You take a picture without thinking, but the more I looked at it, the more certain I became that I didn't take it. Still, I didn't jump to anything serious. I told myself it was nothing. That's the mistake. Because once you give something like this a simple explanation, your brain stops warning you. The second thing happened later that same day. A message, sent from my phone, to a number I didn't recognize. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a simple line. "Yeah, I'll come tomorrow." That was it. No context. No name. Just that. I checked the time. 2:17 a.m. I was asleep at that time. I know I was. I even checked my sleep tracker out of habit, and it confirmed it. I hadn't been awake, not even briefly, no movement, no activity. So how did I send that message? I stared at the screen for a long time, longer than necessary, trying to figure out if there was any logical explanation I was missing. Maybe I had woken up half asleep. Maybe I typed it without remembering. Maybe it was some kind of glitch. But deep down, something didn't sit right. Because the message didn't sound like me. Not the words. The tone. It was too normal. Too casual. Like it was part of an ongoing conversation. One that I wasn't part of. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. I just left it there. Like ignoring it would somehow keep it from becoming real. That night, I paid more attention. I made sure I locked my phone. Checked it twice. Kept it next to me. And I told myself I'd stay awake. Just to be sure. Just to prove to myself that nothing was happening. But staying awake is harder than you think when your body decides otherwise. I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling, forcing my eyes open, checking the time every few minutes. 1:12, 1:28, 1:41. Everything normal, everything quiet, nothing unusual. And for a while, I actually felt stupid, like I was overreacting to nothing. Then I checked again. 2:03 a.m. I told myself I'd stay awake a little longer. Just past 2. Just to be sure. I don't remember falling asleep. That's the part that bothers me the most. There's no gap. No moment where I lost consciousness. Just a jump. From 2:03 to morning. And when I woke up, something was different. Not in a way I could immediately point out. Not something obvious. Just a feeling. Like walking into a room and sensing something has changed even if you can't see it right away. I sat up slowly, looking around, trying to figure out what it was. Everything looked the same. The room, the bed, the light. Nothing out of place. But that feeling didn't go away. So I checked my phone again. And that's when it got worse. There were more messages. Not many. Just 3. All sent between 2:14 and 2:38 a.m. All to the same number. All normal. Too normal. Yeah, I know. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Same time tonight. My chest tightened slightly. Not panic. Not yet. Just that quiet pressure that builds when something stops making sense. Because whoever sent those messages knew exactly what they were doing. There were no typos. No hesitation. No signs of someone half asleep. It was clean. Deliberate. Controlled. Like it wasn't me. But it had to be. Because it was my phone. My account. My number. I checked the call logs. Nothing. Checked apps. Nothing unusual. No sign of anyone accessing it. No explanation. And that's when I noticed something else. Something small, but impossible to ignore once you see it. My shoes. They weren't where I left them. I always keep them near the door, side by side, facing outward, just a habit I've had for years. But now, they were slightly apart. One turned a little to the side, like someone had worn them, and taken them off carelessly. I didn't move them. I know I didn't. I stood there for a long moment, just staring at them, trying to convince myself that I had simply forgotten, that maybe I had been tired, distracted, anything that would make this feel normal again. But that feeling, that quiet, growing certainty, didn't go away, because now it wasn't just digital anymore. Something had moved, something physical, and I was the only one in that apartment. At least, that's what I thought. I didn't go anywhere that morning. I stayed inside longer than usual, not because I was scared, at least that's what I told myself, but because I needed to understand what was happening before I stepped outside and acted like everything was normal. I kept checking my phone again and again, opening the same messages, reading them like they would change if I looked long enough. But they didn't. They stayed exactly the same, calm, casual, like part of a conversation that had nothing to do with me. And that was the worst part, not the fact that they existed, but how normal they felt. Around noon, I finally stepped out. I told myself I needed air, needed to clear my head, needed to get out of that space that was starting to feel occupied. The hallway was quiet like always. Nothing unusual, nothing out of place, just the same old building with the same worn walls and dim lighting. I locked the door behind me and turned to walk toward the stairs. "Hey," the voice came from behind me. I turned. It was the woman from the next apartment. I had seen her a couple of times before, never really talked, just the usual nod, nothing more. But this time she was smiling, like she knew me. "Late night again," she said casually. I paused for a second, trying to process that. "Sorry," I asked. She frowned slightly, not confused, just surprised. "You were out pretty late," she said. "Around 2, I think. I heard you come back." My chest tightened again. Not sharply, not suddenly, just that same slow pressure building from the inside. "I think you've got the wrong person," I said, trying to keep my tone normal. She shook her head lightly. "No, it was you," she said, almost certain. "You even dropped your keys for a second." I didn't say anything after that. I just nodded, forced a small smile, and walked away. Because arguing wouldn't change anything. And I already knew what she was going to say. That it was me. That she saw me. That I was there. Even though I wasn't, outside didn't help. If anything, it made it worse. Because now it wasn't just me noticing things. Someone else had seen it. Or thought they did. I walked for a while without direction, not really paying attention to where I was going. Just trying to keep my mind occupied, trying to find some explanation that made sense. But every explanation led to the same problem. If I didn't do those things, then who did? I went back in the evening. Slowly this time. Carefully. Like the apartment was something I needed to approach, not just enter. Everything looked normal again. Exactly the same as I had left it. Which didn't feel reassuring anymore. It felt staged. Like normal was just another layer. I checked my phone first. Nothing new. No messages. No calls. No signs of activity. For a moment, I almost felt relief. Like maybe it had stopped. Like maybe whatever it was had just ended. But that feeling didn't last. Because I knew it wasn't over. Not after what I had already seen. That night, I made a decision. A real one this time. I wasn't going to sleep. Not even by accident. I set alarms. Multiple. Every 10 minutes. Placed my phone right next to me. Turned on the lights. Sat on the bed instead of lying down. Anything to stay awake. Because if something was happening while I slept, then I just wouldn't sleep. Simple. At least that's what I thought. Time passed slowly. Painfully slow. I kept checking the clock. 1:08. 1:19. 1:31. Everything normal. Nothing happening. I started to feel stupid again. Like I was fighting something that didn't exist. Then 1:52. My eyes started getting heavy. Not naturally. Not like normal tiredness. This was different. Stronger. Sudden. Like my body was being pulled down. I sat up straighter. Forced my eyes open. Checked my phone again. 1:58. Just a little longer, I muttered. My voice sounded strange in the silence. 2:01. I blinked. Just once. And suddenly, it was morning. I was lying down. Lights still on. Phone next to me. Alarms all missed. Every single one. My chest tightened harder this time. Because now it wasn't a possibility anymore. It was happening. And I couldn't stop it. I grabbed my phone immediately. Opened the messages. And there it was. One new message. Sent at 2:23 a.m. to the same number. I'm here. That was it. Short. Simple. Final. My hands felt cold. Because that message meant something had changed. Before, it was conversations. Now, it was movement. I'm here. Where? And then I noticed something else. Something I hadn't checked before. My location history. I opened it. Scrolled through the timeline. And my breathing slowed. Not because I was calm. Because I was trying to understand. At 2:18 a.m., my phone had left the apartment. At 2:31, it had returned. I stared at the screen, unmoving, trying to process something that didn't fit into reality anymore. Because if my phone had left, then someone had taken it. And if someone had taken it, then someone had been here. Or worse, something had been me. I didn't leave the apartment after that. Not because I felt safe inside, but because outside didn't make sense anymore either. If what I saw was real, then whatever was happening wasn't limited to one place. It was following a pattern, a routine, something that continued whether I understood it or not. I locked the door, checked it twice. Then again, not out of habit, but because I needed something to feel certain. Something that didn't change. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand, staring at that message. I'm here, reading it again and again like the meaning would shift if I looked long enough. But it didn't. It stayed the same, simple, calm, like it belonged to someone who knew exactly where they were. I didn't reply. I didn't even open the chat again after that. Because I knew if I did, I'd start expecting something back. And I wasn't ready for that. The day passed slowly, every small sound pulling my attention, every shadow in the room feeling slightly off, like it wasn't fully connected to the space around it, like everything was just a little out of sync with me. By evening, I had already decided what I was going to do. If something was taking over when I slept, then I needed to see it. Not guess, not assume, see it. I set up my phone across the room. Camera on. Recording. I checked the angle twice, made sure the entire room was visible, especially the bed, especially me. No blind spots. No excuses. Then I sat down. Lights on. Back against the wall. Eyes on the clock. I wasn't going to lose time again. Not this time. 1:12. Nothing. 1:27. Still nothing. 1:39. I started to feel it again. That same heavy pull behind my eyes. That same unnatural tiredness. I stood up immediately. Started walking around the room. Talking to myself quietly just to stay focused. You're awake, I said. You're fine, just stay awake. My voice sounded steady. Too steady. 1:56. I checked the camera. Still recording. Still normal. 2:02. I leaned against the wall for a second. Just a second. And then, morning. Again. No gap. No memory. Just a jump. I was sitting on the floor this time. Back against the bed. Head slightly tilted. Like I had been there for a while. My phone was still recording. My hands moved faster now, grabbing it, unlocking it, opening the video, not even thinking, just needing to see what happened. The video started normal. Me sitting, checking the time, walking around, talking to myself. Everything exactly as I remembered. Then 2:03. I stopped moving. Just froze. Not slowly. Not naturally. Instantly. Like something had been turned off. I watched myself on the screen, completely still, eyes open, breathing barely visible. Seconds passed. Then my head moved. Not the way I move. Not with hesitation. Not with awareness. Just smooth. Controlled. Like someone else was using my body. I felt my chest tighten as I kept watching. Because the version of me in the video didn't look confused. It didn't look tired. It didn't look like it had just woken up. It looked focused. Like it knew exactly what it was doing. It stood up, walked toward the camera, and for a second, I thought it was going to turn it off. But it didn't. It stopped right in front of it, and looked directly into the lens. Into me. Because that's what it felt like. Not like I was watching it. Like it was watching me. A slow smile formed on its face. Not wide, not exaggerated, just enough to feel wrong. Then it spoke. My voice. Same tone, same sound, but the words. You should have stayed asleep. My hands went cold. I paused the video, sat there for a second, then pressed play again, because I needed to see the rest. It stepped away from the camera, grabbed my phone, and left the room. The video kept recording. Empty room. Lights on. Nothing moving. Minutes passed. Then at 2:31, the door opened, and it walked back in. Calm. Relaxed. Like nothing had happened. It placed the phone back. Sat down. And at exactly 2:38, it froze again. Same way. Same position. And then, the video jumped. To morning. To me. Waking up. Like nothing had happened. I stopped the video. My hands shaking now, not violently, but enough to make it hard to hold the phone steady. Because now there was no doubt. No confusion. No explanation left. Something was using me. Not replacing me completely. Not yet. But taking control. Piece by piece. Night by night. Learning. Perfecting. I looked around the room slowly. Everything felt the same. But it wasn't. Because now I knew. This wasn't my space anymore. Not completely. I checked the messages again. There was a new one. Sent at 2:35 a.m. Almost done. I stared at it, trying to understand what that meant. Almost done with what? With the routine? With the nights? With me? My chest tightened again. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. That night, I didn't set alarms. Didn't set the camera. Didn't try to stay awake. Because none of it worked. I just sat there, waiting. Not for sleep. For it. And when 2 a.m. passed, I felt it again. That pull. That heavy, unavoidable force dragging me down. I didn't fight it this time. Because I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't something I could stop. It was something that was finishing. My eyes closed slowly. Not forced. Not sudden. Just inevitable. And just before everything went dark, I heard my own voice. Not from inside my head. From somewhere in the room. Calm. Close. Right next to me. You can rest now. I woke up the next morning. And for the first time, everything felt normal. No tension. No heaviness. No sense of something being wrong. Just quiet. Clean. Peaceful. I got up. Checked my phone. No messages. No unknown activity. Nothing out of place. I walked to the mirror. Looked at myself. And everything matched. Perfectly. No delay. No difference. No feeling of being watched. Just me. Exactly as I should be. I smiled slightly. Natural. Effortless. Then I picked up my phone. Opened a contact. Typed a message. And sent it without hesitation. Yeah, I'll handle it tonight. I put the phone down. Walked toward the door. Stepped outside. And for the first time in days, everything felt completely under control. Because this time, it was